Hi, I'm here again today with a reading from the Jesse Tree by Geraldine McCaughrean and illustrated by B. Wiley. Today's chapter is called The Shepherd King. It was not the grief of his son's death that killed Eli. In the temple at Shiloh was kept Israel's most precious treasure, the Ark of the Covenant. One day... Wait, what? Noah's Ark, you mean? The boy interrupted. Oh, child, no. This happened hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years after the flood. No, the Ark of the Covenant was a wooden box with carved angels decorating it. What a piece of work it must have been. It was used to hold the 10 Commandments, God's holy laws, and it was the holiest thing in all of Israel. The mere sight of it made the Israelites feel invincible. Well, the hostile Philistines knew this. And when the Ark was taken into battle, they attacked and captured it, knowing that the loss would rip out the very heart of Israel. When Eli heard the news, he died of grief. Samuel became a priest instead of Eli's sons. As he grew older, God would often stoop down and whisper into Samuel's ear new commandments, encouragement. It was time for Israel to have a king, said God, and Samuel was the one to anoint that king. The man Samuel anointed first was Saul, a great man, a great soldier. Saul was like a pillar of fire, leading the Israelites through every hardship, keeping them safe from their enemies. But power does strange things to people, and Saul began to forget that his crown had been given to him by God. He took no notice of Samuel's advice. Things started to go wrong. Seeing their chance, Israel's enemies closed in, like prowling wolves when a campfire goes out. Samuel was a prophet. Not only could he hear God's voice, but he could see forward through time, as though in a dazzle of light. Soon he could foresee a time when Saul would not be king. God even told him where to look for Saul's replacement, among the sons of Jesse. But which of Jesse's many sons should he choose? That was the question. They were all fine, strong boys, tall and muscular. They might all make good warriors in the king's army. As Samuel met first one, then another, then a third, no lamp flickered in his soul. No voice spoke to him out of the farthest galaxies, saying, "This is the one." "Are these all the sons you have?" he asked Jesse. "All but for David, my youngest. He's out with the sheep," said Jesse. David was sent for, and Samuel studied him, like a shepherd examining a newborn lamb. Yes, it was there. The face he had been waiting to see. He anointed David with holy oil, just as he might a king. "Say nothing," he told father and son. "Not now, not yet." Times were bad. The Philistines were winning the war. David's older brothers went to fight in the king's army, but David was too young. He was trusted with no more than fetching and carrying. "Take your brothers these rations, David," said Jesse, "and come straight back." Long before David reached the camp of King Saul, he could hear the Philistine army jeering. Even as he handed his brothers the cheese and bread and raisins, he could hear the sneering jibes coming from across the valley, the laughter and the catcalls. "What's going on?" he asked. "The Philistines have issued a challenge, their champion against ours, and there's no one to answer it." "Why? Is he so terrifying?" asked David. "Have you seen him?" groaned a nearby soldier. "Tall as a horse." "Broad as a bull," said another. "Twice the size of a normal man. We don't stand a chance." Inside his tent, Saul fumed with helpless rage. Does no one dare fight this mountain of a person? Is Israel full of cowards? But it was not a matter of cowardice. One brave soul was to fight Goliath and lose. Then all of Israel would be lost, and no one wanted to be responsible for that. "There's a boy here who says he will fight," said the guard at the tent doorway. It was David. At first Saul turned his back and laughed, but David ducked inside the tent. "Out in the fields guarding my father's sheep, I fought off a lion before now, wolves and bears. God helped me then. How much worse can this big bully be?" There must have been something in the boy's face, the same thing Samuel had seen. King Saul believed him. In fact, he began to take off his armor and hang it on David's small frame: leather tunic, chain mail, a big brass helmet. David sagged under the weight like a tree under snow. His legs bowed. "I can't wear this," he protested, and he went, as he was, to fight the giant called Goliath.
"What have you sent me? A stick to pick my teeth with?"
roared Goliath. He cast a shadow as big as a building. David bent down as he crossed the stream, chose a handful of round pebbles, and put them into his shepherd's bag.
"Do the Israelites think I will laugh myself to death?"
snorted Goliath. The noise of his armor was like a cart rattling over bumpy ground. David placed a stone into the pouch of his sling.
"Come closer, boy, and I'll pull you like a wishbone,"
boomed Goliath. His massive feet raised clouds of dust as if he were ablaze. But David did not need to go any closer. He whirled his sling, made it high, and then let the pebble fly.
"Well, are you gonna fight me, or just
The giant broke off, his mouth a black circle of surprise. He reeled, he staggered, his hand went up to his forehead, then he fell. The ground shuddered. With a single gasp, the Philistines began to run. They had lost their champion, they had lost their advantage. The Israelites went after them like cats after mice. King Saul gazed at the shepherd boy David with admiration and joy. "From today I shall keep you by me all the time," he declared, and hugged the boy close. Sweat from his throat trickled down onto David's hair, just like the oil used to anoint a king. "King Saul should have known," said the boy, "that David was more of a threat than Goliath." The carpenter looked at him sharply. "Saul was his own worst enemy. He had a dirty temper and fits of black misery. David could play the harp. Sometimes that soothed Saul's dark moods. But sometimes Saul would still throw things and rant and curse like a mad person." The boy gave a lopsided sort of smile and looked firmly at the floor. "Some people are like that," he said. "They can't help it."